coming out. This is a good response for a rainy evening. It's been a rainy day all day. So thank you for coming out in what is, over the next 6 sessions, going to be the groundwork that all of us will be doing together to make some very, very important questions. The 6 sessions are it's kind of like, I've used this analogy before, but it's almost going to be like an airplane taking off. When the first session you sort of get moving, and it's going to build up steam and hopefully at the end take off. So today is sort of a thrusting up, you get some background information together so they're all starting at the same place. But also to do some really significant talking about, before we get into all of the details of Gulf to Bay property and the strategies, so to speak, for us to get all on the same page of what the dream really is, and that is, well, I'll save that, of what the dream really, really is. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, some groundwork stuff. Before we get to that, let's open with a word of prayer. Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for the gift of this family of faith, and for those seated around these tables as we discern your will. So open our spirits, align them with your spirit, so that we can, as one family of faith, make important decisions and then go forth trusting in your abundant love and abundant grace. Be with us during this hour. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. I'm also recording this. I'm going to get it up on YouTube so that anybody who is not here, I don't want anybody in any way, shape, form, or fashion to say, we didn't have the opportunity to get the information. So that's what we're up to, and it's recorded. So everybody say hi to those people watching at home on their computer. All right, let's get going. We're going to answer some questions. Today we're just going to get to the first question. How did we get here? What are we supposed to be doing? Where are we going, and how do we get there? Today we're going to start with that first question. How did we get? I just want to do some recap of how we got to this very place that we sit at right in this very moment. And so I'll go back to February 1st, 2009, and that was my first Sunday with you as your pastor. It's almost been 4 years ago, and wow, has those 3.5, almost 4 years flown by. We've had a great time together. But what happened, what was like the first thing we did right after I started? Many of you were a part of it. Matter of fact, most of you were a part of it. What did we do? Huh? We did the parish meets the pastor party. And there was, I don't remember how many, but there were numerous ones of those. And I went to people's homes. We went to, we had some here. We had some here on Sunday morning. And the goal was to have the opportunity to meet face-to-face with the entire church and talk to everyone about what is the most important thing, what should we be about in our ministry together. And the overwhelming one unified answer was go after young people, right? Remember that? All right, so that set the stage for how we got started. And then 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago or so, we were approached by the owners. By the way, this is the Google Earth picture of the block that we now own. There's Trinity Presbyterian Church. I don't have the pointer, but you can sort of see the roof up there at the top. And then the Gulf to Bay property, the big white square right above the zeros, is the Office Products Warehouse building, and then in between that is the futon store and what used to be the wireless store. We were approached by the owner of that and said, I'll sell you those 2 buildings because we already owned Office Products Warehouse. I will sell you the other 2 buildings for roughly $62 a square foot. They're roughly 10,000 square feet over there for $625,000. That was the negotiated price. And so we said, absolutely, it makes a lot of sense no matter what we're going to do for us to own the whole property. We put together a capital campaign that added some repair work to our organ, as well as some closing costs and some startup costs that we thought might be necessary to get to. and we decided to put together a capital campaign that was in the neighborhood of $743,000. And this was coming out of the recession, the economy tanking. We were in the middle of that. And I'll just be honest with you, I thought there was no way in God's earth that we would ever get close to $750,000 for a capital campaign. So we put our heads together and said, but here's what we can do. We guesstimated, we were guessing that we would at least get half of that. And then what we decided to do was look at renting those 3 properties for up to 5 years and letting that rental income end up paying them off. So that was sort of the thinking. And that during those 5 years, we would do the dreaming work of what would we do with those buildings once they're paid for. That was the thinking as we went into the capital campaign. Well, lo and behold, thanks to a couple of large gifts within the first week of announcing the capital campaign, and by the end of the campaign, actually 2 or 3 weeks into it, we had pledged just shy of $1.3 million, which was an incredible gift, but also it sort of made us have to rethink our timeline and time frame and what we were doing. The bottom line is we weren't ready for that in a lot of ways because we haven't really thought through how we were going to use the buildings. So we've taken our time. We've decided not to rush, but just to take our time and allow the Spirit to work and see how it has gone. So we put together a team, and here's a list of people that have been working on this team. Missy and Brian Russell, who send their regrets. Allie is playing in the district volleyball tournament tonight, and so they're unable to be here. The Gardners, who said they were going to be here, I haven't seen them yet. Robin and Nick Powell, Rodney and Susan Ulrich, myself and Darlene, Bob Abood, Scott Warnock, and Bob Dyer, J.D. Berkler have been sort of advisors. I'll get that for you. That's all right. And that brings us to tonight, where over the next 6 weeks, I want to kind of give a culmination of what we have been talking about, but to use this book by John Maxwell, Put Your Dream to the Test, as a guide for us to think about whether or not our dream and our vision makes any sense. And let me say this right up front. It is not the expectation that we will get to the end and you will say, yes, this is what it is. The sole expectation is for us together to prayerfully listen to God's discernment and talk about questions, to talk about, and ultimately, even if red flags come up and say, no, we're not there, that's fine. That is perfectly fine. The second thing I want to say is that group that's been working together, in no way, shape, form, or fashion do they assume or have been put together that they were making any decisions. Their job was to gather information and then give it to you. So we sent them out ahead, get all the information so that we can answer your questions and then we can make those decisions together. We're in this together is basically what it is. And if we have ownership and we get a whole lot of motion and we all get excited and say this is what we're doing, great. If that doesn't occur, then that means we should listen to that. Does that make sense to you? So your input is vitally important. Here's the 10 questions that Maxwell suggests you look at. And by the way, his book is designed for individuals to look at sort of their dream of their life and whatsoever. I'm adapting his work for us corporately. He didn't write this as how does an organization get the dream. He wrote it as how does an individual have a dream for their life. So I'm adapting. Here's the questions. Is our dream really our dream? And what he's getting at there, and this is the question we're going to look at tonight. From an individual standpoint, how many kids grow up doing their parents' dreams? So his question, so put it in that line. Is this really our dream, or is it this just what we're supposed to do? Is this really genuinely what our dream is what we're looking at tonight. Next week, we're going to look at questions 2 and 3. Do we clearly see our dream? And that's where we're going to give you the strategy and the specifics of what we're thinking about how we can use the Gulf to Bay property, as well as how we see the larger ministry of the church. So the specifics are coming in next week. Are we depending on factors within our control? Does our dream compel us to follow it? In other words, are you in? That makes sense? Because if you're not in, we're not going to get there. Do we have a strategy to reach our dream? Have we included the right people to get us there? Are we willing to pay the price for our dream? Are we moving closer to our dream? Does working toward our dream bring satisfaction, and does it benefit others? That's the structure of our next 6 sessions together. Those are the questions we're going to be asking, and then framing our information around those questions. Any questions so far? All right, I'm going to hand out some stuff, because all this that I'm about to give you is in writing here. I can get some help. The first thing Maxwell suggests that we do is to be brutally honest with where our starting point is. So, not to make it sugarcoat it, but where are we right this very moment? Okay? So that's what I want to do. And I want to start by looking at some statistical reports. The PCUSA website, it's on your page right there, only goes back 10 years. But according to the 2011 statistical report, our congregation's total membership is 253. Joyce is 258 right now. Is that correct? 259. 259. You can't forget that 59 person. And is larger than the 2011 PCUSA average of 187. So we're slightly above average for PCUSA. But however, if you look at the last 10 years, we've experienced a 40% decrease. If you go back 20 years, it's more like a 70% decrease over the last 20 years. Right? You all knew this already. Our congregation reported total contributions in 2011 of $471,000 and some change. It's larger than the average of $245,024. As you notice the chart, if you look at the chart, for the last 3 years since I've been here, our finances are going which way? Up. That's a good thing that's happening. However, and this is something of note, that if you look at our giving patterns, 50% of our budget is given by the top 5 donors. So 5 people are no longer here for whatever reason, that's 50% of our budget. That's alarming and something we need to be looking at. Now let's put ourselves in the bigger picture of the Presbyterian Church USA. Are things in the Presbyterian Church USA all hunky-dory? Huh? No. And if you go back to 1967 to 2002, it goes from 4.22 million down to 2.45 million. And for the first time this year, we are actually under 2 million in 2012. Not to mention the fact that the Presbyterian Church, and there's our logo, looks actually more like this. In that it seems that we have people on both the left and the right theologically, all in the name of purity, to purify the church, more interested in destroying the church at the expense of peace and unity. We live, and this is just not true just for Presbyterians, it's all across the board in all mainlines, but we live in a time and a place where many people say mainline churches are the Titanic, they are sinking and they're done no matter what you do. That make sense? And then of course we have to look at our own church history. And I wasn't here for this, many of you were. But over the last 20 years, we've had mass exoduses, we've had pastoral leadership issues, we've had church splits and arguments where a lot of people have left. That is our history that we inherit. And then last but not least, we have an aging population, and that's across the board. But what's some of the challenges of having an aging population? much energy. And we lose them on a not regular basis, but on the turnover is higher. So you get that. Not as enough energy, not as connected to today's culture. Been there, done that, all of those things. So I would like for you, and I've asked elders to listen at different tables. I'd like for you to spend about 3 minutes, given those realities, how does that make you feel? Chat. All right, I want you to give me your words. I will start with this table right here. 3 to 5 words. Potential in that you've been burned out, makes you feel burned out. Is that what you're looking for? Burned out. What about back here? Give me some words.
Depressing and apprehensive.
Depressing, apprehensive. Sharon, I also heard you say discouraged, right? What about back here?
Saddened and challenged.
Saddened and challenged. Turn it into the positive there.
Sad, disconnected, crisis, concern, challenge.
Those are all real genuine states between sad, disconcerting, disconnected, like, anybody feel like overwhelmed? Like, how do we overcome this? Over here.
Concerned, vulnerable, and trying to do something right.
That's good. Concerned, vulnerable. I like that. That's a good word, vulnerable. Because we're used to, as the church, not being vulnerable. We're used to being in the place of power, prestige. For the first time in a very long time, the church is actually vulnerable. It's a good word, Tim. Whoever came up with that. Go here. Excited, challenge. It comes from the younger version of it. The younger version is like, let's go for this. So we have the extremes of excited, challenge, to burned out, don't know what. Discouraged, which is actually the word I want to focus on. I heard you say it over here, Sharon. To challenge, to disconnected, to overwhelmed. Those are all real feelings that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't honor those scary feelings a lot. We just go, let's do something, let's do another program, let's do another this, let's do another that, and see if it works. And so this is why I'm starting here, because these are real feelings that you're all sort of thinking in the back of your head, right? And we need to acknowledge them, that this is true and this is out there. I want to start by talking a little bit about discouragement, because I think it's easy to be overwhelmed, burned out, and get discouraged. John Maxwell tells a story that he did a business leader conference with some of the best executives in the country. And they all came in, and he asked them, how many of you have a dream, a vision of what you're trying to accomplish with your corporation? How many of you can articulate what that dream is? And it excites you what that dream is. And everybody in the room raised their hand. 100%. We know what we're trying to accomplish. And then he asked the next question. How many of you are discouraged trying to accomplish that dream? Would you like to guess the number? Not quite. You guys are so pessimistic. 95% of them said, we know, we got the dream, but we're discouraged trying to accomplish it. So does that tell you discouragement is part of it, right? It's part of it. It's part of the process. You go back, Robbie, you're here. You go back to high school. You kind of have an idea what you want to do with your year or whatever, but you get discouraged. It's part of life. It's just part of who it is. And if we're going to articulate a dream that's worth its salt, You think it's just going to roll itself out like a red carpet? You go, here we are, let's do it. Do you really think Trinity Presbyterian Church is the only church in the entire United States that says, that's struggling with reaching out to younger generations, and says, okay, well, that's our dream, and it's just gonna drop itself down like from manna from heaven? Do you think that's gonna happen? Huh?
That's what we're hoping.
We're gonna get to this. Or we're gonna hire a youth director, and all of a sudden we're gonna have 100 kids. We're going to have discouragement. Let's look at some things that cause us discouragement. It's easy to get discouraged by others. On a corporate scale, this can look like this. For us to say, if we were happy to say, you know what, going after the younger generations is our dream. It's our passion. This will happen. It's already happened. Some people over there will say, that's not my dream. This church doesn't meet my needs anymore. I'm leaving. And they've been here for 15, 20, 30, 40 years. Right? And it's easy for us then to go, oh my gosh, we're doing something wrong. It's easy to get discouraged by others. It's easy to get discouraged by past disappointments. What's that about? We tried this before. We tried something before. It didn't work. It's like throwing your rod out, your hook out in the water, let it sit there for 5 minutes, and you didn't catch anything. So you shoot the fish captain. Most people change bait. Huh? Yeah. But or go to the other side of the boat. Or what I used to do back in Georgia on the Chattahoochee River, aggravated my grandparents to death. They were fishing on the point, and I was 7 or 8, and I came up with this idea that the bloodier the worm, the more chances that you would catch a fish. And so I'd take the worm and slam it on the rock, and slam it on the rock, and then hook it, and throw it out there, and catch a fish. Do it again, and put it out there, and throw it out there, and I'd catch a fish. And my grandparents were sitting right beside me, and they're not catching nothing. So about 10 minutes later, I see my grandfather going, in the brain of, what I was thinking in the brain of an 8-year-old is like, sharks come to blood, so that's what I was thinking. All right. Discouraged by the gap between reality and expectations. Here's the reality, or here's the expectation. We hire a youth person, and we're going to have 100 people show up. Or, we do this, we do that, and it's going to just automatically work. That's what most people expect. Or, quite honestly, most churches, not saying this is you, but most churches, and this comes out in pastoral calls all the time, the search committee will come and say, yeah, we really, really, really want to do whatever. And then you get into it, and that's not where everybody is. Because, people will say, yes, we want to reach out for young children, but that's quite honestly, does ministry to today's culture, technologically based culture, look the same as ministry to they're completely different. Musically different, theologically different, it's a gap. And so their expectation is, yes, let's go out and reach young people, but we don't have to change anything. And then there's reality. And then when reality starts and the changes start occurring, then that gets people discouraged. So this is one of the questions, especially when we get to the cost question, which I think is 6 or 7. We need to do some honest discussion. And I need you to be as honest as possible. What cost are you willing to pay? Do you want us to keep doing things the way we've always done it? But expect that a younger generation will come. I need you to be honest with that, with me. Okay? That's down the road. Discouraged because they're in the habit of settling for average. How can I be nice? It's been a long time since I've seen a church not settle for average. That goes from And I will personally point fingers at leadership for that. This is my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my opinion. The bar of leadership in the Presbyterian Church is so low. And I'm not sure that's because of somebody's fault, or it's because we just haven't trained people to make this gap difference that what we're talking about today. We don't get trained how to do this, because quite honestly, nobody's really figured it out yet. We're getting closer to figuring it out, but we've settled for average. And last, discouraged by lack of confidence. Everybody else can't pull it off. Who thinks we can? Make sense? So here's my questions back to your table. How do we prevent these reasons and perhaps others from letting us get discouraged? And then the one I'm really interested in, if we get discouraged, what will you do, what will we do to work through it? And I'm assuming, what am I assuming here? We will get through it, but we will get discouraged. Go for it, chat. I want to say something that I probably should have started. If you came here to only hear about Gulf to Bay, the property over there, you're going to be disappointed, because what we're going to talk about is the entire ministry of the church. And I'll unpack that completely at the end when we start talking about the stream. We felt to just talk about one piece is incomplete. We need to see how it fits the entire ministry of the church. So Gulf to Bay is one piece. It's an important piece. It's the newest piece. But how it fits into this cavern between, and how it relates to all of you, and how all of this goes together is more important than what we decide or not decide to do in Gulf to Bay. Because you all are very important, and your needs need to be met. And so how it all fits together, and that we can come to something that we are all into together, is what we're trying to get to. Does that make sense to you? So we're backing up a little bit. I think we got ahead of ourselves to go, let's just go do something in Gulf to Bay. We got ahead of ourselves. So let's back up and say, how does it fit the big picture? And we're going to do that over this 6 weeks. So if you're just here, like, just tell me what you're going to do over there. We're not there yet. Next week, I'll give you a lot of that. I'll give you a lot of it next week as we get into the strategy. Right now, we're starting with what's the dream, and then we'll get into the strategy. Okay? All right. What did you come up with about discouragement? We'll start on this side. Jim McCormick, what did you guys come up with?
Well, how to prevent these reasons, get facts to establish goals that we can accomplish.
Speak up, Jim.
Get facts to establish goals that we can accomplish, but don't limit expectations of meeting them.
Okay? Go right here.
Maybe ask unchurched kids what they think and rethink how to get to those places.
Okay?
Could you just repeat what you said?
I'm talking about
repeat
youth
it so it
and asking.
comes on there better.
Pardon me?
I was saying, why doesn't?
I'm not sure how that has to do with discouragement, so I'm really
No.
struggling with it.
Well, I know, we could look at how we are doing it and why we're doing it the way we're doing it.
Stay focused on the goal. All right?
Well, we're embarking on trying something new, unlike the facts from the last 45 years that the same was tried, expecting a different result. So we should be less encouraged or taking a little bit more risk. And
We are taking a lot more risk. Matter of fact, I keep wondering when I'm going to say this. I'm probably going to say it a couple times. If we decide to do something with the Gulf to Bay building, I almost would want our mindset to be similar to that's a new church development. We just happen to be parking it in our front yard. But again, is ministry to a different generation the same? So it's almost like it's a new church development going on over there. So we'll unpack that later. But it has a much higher degree of risk, because it's not as cookie cutter as it's been for the last 40 years. You know, it used to be, build it, they come. That was that. What about you guys?
We discussed preventing us from letting us get discouraged by having good communication with each other, remembering that God is in charge, getting a clear vision of what we all want, and being open-minded to each other's ideas.
Great 3 points. 1, good communication. What that means we, the staff, need from you is if you're discouraged, do what? Yell, scream, and leave the church? Or what? Come and recognize that discouragement's going to be part of it. Come talk to me or to whoever, and we'll work through it. Because really, genuinely, we are pioneers. We are, and I don't believe we're on the Titanic. I believe we're on the Mayflower. I do not believe that we are on the Titanic. I believe we are on the Mayflower. And the Mayflower, by the way, didn't land where they thought they were going to land. They went through a bunch of storms and landed somewhere else, which is a great metaphor for what I think the church is on. I want to slap people who say, the church is just the Titanic. No, the heck it's not. It's God's church. We're on the Mayflower. But you think that was easy for them? What would you guys come up with?
We need, number one, a common goal and how to have it going.
That's what we're working on. All right, let's move on. Where's my little thingy? All right. From here to there. Let's start with from here. The unified voice from the parish meets pastor parties was, we want you to go out and get young people. I think that is an incomplete statement. The more I thought about it, the more I thought that's a landmine waiting to happen. I've reworked it a little bit. Would love your input. And I hope this conveys what I think you would say our goal is. Become an active and vibrant church for all generations, with intentional focus on ministry to younger generations. You see the difference there? Now, let's be perfectly clear. Ministry, active, vibrant to 60s, 70s, and 80-year-olds for the most part. Again, when you generalize, there's all kinds of exceptions. I understand it. I don't want to hear, again, that you put us all in the same category. I'm not. I'm broadly speaking, just to get some general ideas. I understand. Some of you 60, 70, and 80-year-olds would much rather be over here. I get it. The majority of you want to be over here. All right? And then ministry to 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds is over here. And there is a huge gap in between. And a lot of churches have abandoned ship and said, the heck with all of you, we're going to do this. And they will have a future, but they just wiped out the good and faithful servants that have gotten us there. So, but a lot of churches have done that. And a lot of churches have said, the heck with you guys over here, we're going to do this. And a lot of people are going to have some really good funerals. And that organ is going to be wonderful. The last funeral can, on the back of the coffin, hopefully you can turn the lights out. Right? No church that I know of is actively trying to say, let's be a leader here and try to figure this out from this perspective. That's what I'm asking you to join me here to do. And this dream says both. So do you agree or not? Consensus. Is this the dream?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the dream we're putting to the test. I started with, I'm going to give you all the facts and information about Gulf Debate, and we're going to test that. This is the dream. That's the strategy. Make sense? I wanted to start with, let's make sure we're all on the same page on the dream. We'll get to strategy next. All right, this is the last piece that I think is important because his point is very well done, and I would like to ask you to put some serious thought into this. Maxwell says the number one reason why people get frustrated is because they don't have enough valid reasons to accomplish their dream. I would like to hear from you, what are the valid reasons for reaching out to young people? And let me give you a hint. If it's just so somebody can keep the lights on, that's not a valid reason. If it's just so that we can have the potluck dinner next and somebody else will do the dishes, it's not a valid reason. Why do you want to reach young people? Go. All right. Let's get to the why. Why do you want to reach young people? We'll start left, right, we'll start center.
We said to nurture younger generations, to offer leadership and faith teachings.
What about you guys?
Basically to give young people the core values and background and faith that we were taught so they can survive in today's society.
So you want to become like you?
No.
Both of them beginning to the outside.
What about over here?
To let them, the younger generation, share with us the joy of God's love.
Reciprocal, I like it. To recognize that they have a lot to offer us.
And also to help us grow by knowing them.
Right. Good, I like that. Anybody here?
Oh, to bring energy, so that we can connect with their ideas.
Bring energy so they connect to their ideas. Similar connecting here, right here. Why do you want to reach young people?
We're going to have a future.
I wonder if that's a viable reason.
We want to reach young people for their own spiritual development, for their,
To serve them.
not for our purpose. It's not to bring people in to make the church bigger. It's to do like Jesus and his disciples did on a one-to-one basis from one person to another to another.
Now we're on to something. Because I think there's really only one viable reason why you should want to reach anybody for that matter, whether they're young or old. Because that's what God tells us to do. You know? And God does not say, I want you to go reach the next generation. And by the way, every next generation is different from the past one. This is no different. It may be, the gap may be further, and I would probably argue that the gap is further. I mean, heck, you guys, parents, didn't like Elvis doing this. I mean, that was awful. You know, now I can do it all day long and nobody says a word. Yeah, now I can go be the full auntie, you know? The gap is further, yeah, Marty.
I think one way to summarize it is for their benefit.
Yeah, I think these guys are on target, though. I mean, anytime you enter into a spiritual relationship with another person, that is a two-way street. That is a two-way street. Again, I'm going to go back to the only one viable reason that this generation should care about that generation is because God commands you to. It's not a suggestion, it's a command.
But he didn't say generations.
Well, these people in these generations.
Specific.
All right, well, all right, fine. You want to do that? God commands you to go to the students, or a student at Clearwater High. I mean, yeah, I don't have names, but God commands us to be,
But the question was the younger generation.
I'm being broad to get the, Huh? Yeah. I mean, yes, you can narrow this down to individuals. We're talking about a corporate ministry, so that's big. Ultimately, you boil the corporate ministry, it's down to one-on-one relationships, and that's what we're doing. But we're talking about a corporate ministry and a corporate focus.
I think in order to survive in today's world, we need to learn what they had to teach us, the younger generation.
These are all the challenges that we're going to get to. You've heard me say this before. This is the first time in all of history where the younger generation is smarter than the older generation. Yet, the older generation is much wiser than the younger generation. Smartness without wisdom is dangerous. Wisdom without smartness is not moving forward in a forward-driven economy and world. The two need to come together. They need you, you need them. Yes?
Younger generation, what are you talking? People your age or?
Well, compared to some people, my age would be young generation, but I'm specifically talking about high school. Well, I'm actually specifically talking preschool on up into college and post-college. Young adult type things. Under 30, roughly. My generation is sort of the middle. I'm kind of the middle ground between.
But that's the generation that's missing too.
Right. My generation is in the middle of the younger kids. We'll put them over here. Are weird to my generation, and the older generation is hard to relate to as well. Yeah. So, and again, it's dangerous to talk about generations because it's not a perfect fit. Do you understand that? I understand that. I understand it's not a perfect fit. It gives us some guides to talk about. That's all I'm trying to do.
And certainly as we go to the younger generation, we're not going to discourage the older generation from also coming in.
No, matter of fact, if this is where I'm trying to get to, if your heart is, my heart is God's calling me to be a part of this, then you may be in a worship service with a guitar going on that you may hate. Internally, but I bet, in your face, you're going to be the smiliest person in the world because you got this relationship going on. And, those things are, but it's all what's in your heart. If your heart is, this is all about me, and you better just meet my needs and keep me happy, then, that's what it is. It's kind of what I'm trying to discern with you. What is our heart as a church? What is our commitment level to this? And how can we also maintain enough of this to do ministry? That's the challenge. All right, just quickly, then won't do group. We'll just sponge me. What's the question? How some of the changes we've already made taking you out of your comfort zone? If any.
Would you list some of the changes that you've made?
Summer casual worship.
Okay. That's good.
Winter casual. Trying this team approach is something new. We've restaffed ourselves in ways that we weren't always staffed at. We have gone to less formality in a lot of things. We've given people.
When Dennis was here?
We've given people the power and the decision to just make their own decisions. Those are just some I can think of on the top of my head. Sermon topics, confronting the controversies. When's the last time you did that in church? So sermon topics have been in a different.
Rob was saying that he, really didn't mind the music this summer, but it was, out of his comfort zone. It was something that he wasn't used to. He was more used to the old Presbyterian, hymns.
Right.
I'm getting used to it, though.
Hey, and again, if your heart is, look, we're trying stuff to reach and I'm all for trying whatever it is if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll try something else. that's your heart, then we have less issues. And that's what I'm trying to discern. Yeah, Bobby?
One of the things that was mentioned here is that we don't have much opportunity to meet the young people.
They're busy folks.
To work with the kids, to
Yeah.
work with the children, we don't have much time to know these kids. And if there was some way that we can integrate the different generations.
This is a challenge that I think we ought to put out there to answer this question. How can we do a better job of intergenerational ministry? I think it's going to be vitally important for a church in the middle. From now on, if I say a church in the middle, do you know what I'm saying? It's, we're not going to be over here, we're not going to be over here, we're going to actually probably what I think it's going to look like, it's going to be fluid. Sometimes we're leaning a little bit more this way, and sometimes we're leaning a little bit more this way, but we're probably never going to hit the extremes. Yeah, that's a good, we're going to go with the Spirit.
One of the ways I think we can get to know younger people is Cedar Creek.
Yeah, good place, family retreat. I'm out of time, so what challenges do you see ahead? Resistance to change.
Looking forward to
Yeah, I mean, you got some people, I can't do this fast enough. Some people in this room have yelled at me so many times, would you please get your butt going? And many of you are saying, don't you dare do a thing. That's my challenge as a leader, is to know when it is appropriate to take a step. What are other challenges that are before us? Marty?
To not get discouraged.
To not get discouraged. Scott Warnock.
Communicating the plan and getting those on board who aren't this group, which is the same group at every class, all in session, all in years. This group isn't the hard group.
No, I mean, in a lot of ways, we've been doing this for 3 years.
Right.
I have prepped you as best I know how. Here's what I'm afraid of, and here's my own fear. With you hardcore people, I mean, we love each other. We have built the relationships, and many of you have been in my office, and we've had hard conversations, and we love each other, and we're good. But we start doing some things that are different. Some of your well-loved, beloved friends, this is not going to be for them.
Why don't we get somebody who we're sitting there in the congregation and invite them to come to the meeting?
Right.
Try to bring more people into the meeting.
I mean, I'll give you my own challenge. I am such the people pleaser. I want everybody to be happy. That's my personality. And I know, I'm smart enough and doing this long enough now to know that now that we're about to go forward, and we're about to do something. Whatever it is, we're about to do something. The nice little happy place we've built for the last 3 years, and all that work we've been doing to stop the bleeding and get everybody going in the same direction, it's going to have some challenges.
One of the things.
And I need your, Dennis, need your help through that. So, Kathy?
We may want to do something similar to this during the daytime, because a lot of the older people don't drive at night.
Well, we also have the video, so I mean, they all have computers as well.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe I'm all for. I'll do anything. Right. All right, my time is up, and I really want to watch these debates in 55 minutes. So. Here's next week. For the last 10 weeks or so, all of your staff, Tiffany, myself, Mike, and Kathy, have been meeting around this book, Put Your Dream to the Test, and around 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. How can we've been meeting every week, how can we be better leaders, and how can we articulate what that totality, what we think this church of the center looks like? And next week we together, I'll present it, but it's coming from us, of what we think the church in the center looks like, which includes how the Gulf of the Bay property could be used to be this church. Now, just because we've done that, does that mean that's the total picture? No, it's 50% of the picture. What we need you to do is to say, yes, we can support that. We can get on board with you and help make. And here's the crazy thing, you know, and I use this term, and Marty got all over me correctly so. But you know, our calling, I use career. My career, my calling, is, and what I want to accomplish in my ministry is tied to you. There's 40 people in this room. You all get veto power over whether or not, you know, those goals and that dream, what I think God's speaking to me. And the same thing for Kathy, same thing for Mike, same thing for Tiffany. So ministry is a partnership. And so we want to present what we think it is, and we're the Mayflower. Just because it's what we think it is, we probably won't. This isn't it. But this is the this is the direction we see us, you know, sailing for. So next week, as we put those strategies together, we want you to respond to it, to say, heck no, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Or yes, but you know, let's add this or whatever. So next week we're going to get much more in detail with the strategy. Now that we have the dream stated to be the church in the middle. All right? Makes sense? And we'll also look at, are we working only on factors within our control? I'm going to tell you the answer to that. The answer is no. Why? Because there's this thing called the Holy Spirit that I have no control over. Make sense? Thank you all for being here. Let's close with a word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for tonight. For many of us, it felt like we backpedaled a little bit, but hopefully it is laying the groundwork as the airplane sort of starts the motion down the runway to where in the next couple weeks we will pick up speed and come together closer together as partners in ministry as we make some important decisions. Bless us tonight as we go to our homes. Bless our two candidates who are about to duke it out. Help them find that place of civility, to model as leaders as they should, how to lead without being divisive. We make this our prayer in Christ's name. Amen. Good night, everybody.